Cool. Right. So Peter very kindly invited me along to present about my new website, which is called progressiveeducation.org. So it all started about 2 years ago with a Facebook group. And I set this group up shortly after the experience of my son starting school. Like many people do, I sent my kids to school without a second thought. I was actually really looking forward to it. I was looking forward to being part of the school community, making new friends, and going back to work. But it was a really disappointing experience for all of us. Both my sons developed a fear of school, and it was a daily battle to get them in. I've put a couple of slides together just to try and paint a picture of what this was like. So these are the things that my sons said to me when they were at school. My elder son at the age of 6 said, "I'm nerve-wracking about school." He said, "I'm not belonging at school. Why was school invented?" One time he said to me, "Did God invent school or was it man-made?" And he used to complain of shouty teachers and too much learning. And one time on the way to school, he said, "Mummy, my heart hurts." And he was actually on the verge of a panic attack. But at this point, I wasn't really questioning the education system. I think often when children and young people struggle at school, it's the child that's seen as the problem or the parenting. So I was sent on various parenting courses, and my son was sent off to see various professionals, psychologists and psychiatrists, but no one was actually questioning the school. One teacher actually said, "Well, he's fine here, home must be the problem." But I do remember, because I was going on these parenting courses, I do remember feeling there was a mismatch between the things I was learning there and what was happening at school, because all the courses talked about empathy, connection, relationship building, trust, and mutual respect. And I didn't feel that that was really happening in school. Sorry, I'm just moving my view around so I can see my screen better. Yeah, so it was only really when his younger brother went to school 2 years later that I started to question the system. So at the age of 4, his younger brother said things like, at bedtime, he'd say, "I don't want to close my eyes because when I wake up, it's school." He said, "I'm scared." And within 2 weeks of starting school, he said, "I hate learning. I hate reading." He said, "I was excited to go to school. I thought it would be fun, but it's not." And one time on the way in, he was so nervous about school. He was nervous about a phonics class, and he said, "Sick has come up in my mouth." And it was really stressful. This went on for about 2 years until finally I listened to my kids. I'd started helping out at the school, and I saw firsthand what they'd been trying to tell me. So at the end of 2018, I deregistered my sons from school, and we've been home educating ever since. I had a meeting with the head teacher shortly before we left, and he actually admitted to me that their strapline of learning together and respecting each other was work in progress. So I knew I'd made the right decision. That was all just over 2 years ago now. And initially, I kind of panicked because, like I said, I'd been looking forward to my kids going to school, and I was meant to be going back to work, and everything had been turned on its head. So I set up a Facebook group. I hoped that the group would allow me to connect with like-minded people and that I'd be able to find out what my options were. And it turned out I wasn't alone. The group grew quite quickly, and we had 1,000 members within a couple of months. And we're now an international community of nearly 4,000 people. We've got members from all over the world, including teachers, academics, psychologists, researchers, parents, and founders of progressive schools and learning communities. And it's been amazing. It's been amazing for me anyway. It's been a huge support. It can be quite lonely going against the grain and doing something unconventional. So it's been kind of a lifeline for me. And I've learned loads. Lots of articles get shared, TED Talks, books, websites, podcasts, blogs, events and campaigns. And I thought it was really important to share everything that I'd learned so that others could benefit too. So in March last year, I set up a website. I'm basically trying to create the resource which I wish I'd had 2 years ago. I want to create something to help raise awareness of alternative approaches to education so that parents know they've got options. Many people don't even know that home education is legal, and many people think Montessori is just an approach for kindergarten. I've not met anyone where I live who's even heard of democratic or self-directed education. So I want to normalise these approaches because even when people have heard of them, the perception is that they're alternative or for others. They're not seen as credible choices. And that doesn't seem right, seeing as many progressive approaches have their roots in children's rights and social justice. So I've put together a list of progressive approaches which sit outside of conventional schooling. And there are 10 that I've got on there in total, and each one links through to further information, book lists, websites, and social media platforms that people can join. So I've just listed home education, world schooling, flexi schooling, forest school, Montessori, Reggio Emilia, democratic and self-directed education, Steiner, online schools, and small schools. And I'm referring to each one of them as progressive. And I know this might be a bit controversial to some people because progressive education means different things to different people. But for me in the website, I'm using the dictionary definition. So this definition here comes from dictionary.com, and it's referring to looking to the future, improvement and change. I've also put together a directory, and it's a directory of schools and learning communities categorised by approach. It's just UK at the moment, but I'm looking into how it could potentially be expanded in the future. And there's also a jobs directory and an events directory. And that was initially all I planned for the site. I wanted people to be able to find out what their options were and where they could find them. But then I figured it's all very well taking kids out of the system, but what about the ones that are still in it? So there's a get involved section, which has campaigns, and a support for schools section. The campaign section lists initiatives people can get involved with to help transform or reform the education system. It includes campaigns working to raise the school starting age, campaigns working on mental health and well-being, social justice, and campaigns striving to change the way students are assessed. And there's a school support section which lists initiatives that schools can get involved with to enhance the student experience. And it includes initiatives around children's rights, outdoor learning, free play, democracy and student voice, and self-managed learning. The website also includes a section about why we need progressive alternatives to conventional methods in education. And from all the research I've done, there seems to be 15 main things that people talk about when they talk about education reform. And I've presented these as 15 ways to reimagine education. A lot of them are interrelated, but I think it's useful just to have them in a list so that you can kind of see them at a glance. So each one of these on the website clicks through to more information to back it up from TED Talks, articles, research, books, and other websites. So I've got things like raising the school starting age, prioritising play, having mixed age groups with mixed abilities, eradicating standardised testing, valuing creativity and innovation, prioritising mental health and well-being, valuing democracy and mutual respect, valuing self-directed education and broadening the curriculum, reducing the time spent in formal learning, enhancing teacher training, reducing class sizes, more parent-teacher collaboration, focusing more on life skills, and basically creating a new model entirely for the 21st century. This section is important, I think, because often when parents want to take their kids out of school, there are lots of people that need convincing, like partners, family, and friends. And I definitely would have found this useful 2 years ago. I guess it's important to say that I'm not an expert. I'm not a teacher and I don't work in a school. But I say that the website isn't really about me. I see it as a platform to amplify the voices of the experts and the voices of other parents and teachers. So I've included a voices section, and this has interviews with teachers, young people and students, psychologists, researchers, parents, and founders from progressive schools and learning communities. I also invite people to write guest blogs and share research, and I've had contributions from teachers, authors, academics, researchers, psychologists, and activists. So the website isn't really about my opinion, it's about sharing voices and amplifying them. And it's also about helping to give other people voices too. Often when children are struggling at school, parents don't know what to do, or they don't have the language or knowledge to articulate what the problem is. So for me, when my kids were struggling, I didn't even know about alternative education. I have to confess, I'd never even heard of Peter Gray or Ken Robinson. And I didn't really know that there was a problem with the education system. I'd never questioned it. I just knew in my gut that something wasn't right. But I didn't have any research to back up what I was feeling. But now I've done my research, I know that clearly what my kids were reacting to was a lack of freedom, a lack of choice, a lack of respect and student voice and democracy, a fear of punishment, a lack of connection and relationship, and the limited time for free play. So I want to give parents the tools and the language so they can start a dialogue with their schools and any other professionals. Like if kids are struggling with school attendance, they're often told that the priority is to get back into school and to get back to normality, when actually that's not always the right advice. Alternatives are available and parents do have a choice, and the alternatives are credible and reasonable. And maybe it's this institution of school that should be questioned rather than the child that struggles within it. I'd also like to say that the website is quite new. It's just a starting point, so I'd really value any feedback, particularly around the tone, because I really don't want this to be about school bashing. I've got loads of teacher friends and they work really, really hard and they passionately want to make a difference to the lives of children. So I want this to be a positive resource and not a criticism of teachers. And there's some great work being done. I want to showcase the innovation that is happening in schools and work with teachers, not against them, and celebrate the initiatives that are striving to change the system in a positive way. So that's it really, and I hope the website will be useful in some way. And please do get in touch if you'd like to submit an article or if you've got research to share. Get in touch if you'd like to be interviewed for the Voices section. And if you've got a job or event you'd like to share, then let me know. Just drop me an email. The email's on the slide there.